Why you must stay away from the narcissist. No matter how much you once loved them, there comes a moment, usually after months or even years of confusion, when you finally realize what you've been tangled in. It's not love. It's not passion. It's a slow erosion of the self, the quiet dismantling of your confidence, your peace, and your sense of worth. Psychologists like Dr. Ramani Durvasula describe this as narcissistic entanglement, a psychological web where the victim becomes conditioned to prioritize the narcissist's needs over their own. The irony is that the deeper you care, the more the narcissist feeds. Their empathy deficit doesn't just mean they can't love you. It means they see your love as fuel, not connection. When we say you need to stay away from them, we're not just talking about physical distance, we're talking about emotional, mental, and even spiritual boundaries. Narcissists don't simply not care about you. As many therapists have observed, they actively devalue you because your light threatens their shadow. The narcissist's greatest fear isn't losing you. It's losing control over you. Every time you begin to heal, to laugh without them, to find peace in your own company, it's as though they feel their power slipping away. And to them, that's intolerable. Back when you were with them, something inside you whispered that something wasn't right. You couldn't explain it. It wasn't always obvious cruelty or shouting. Sometimes, it was the silence after your tears, or the smirk when you tried to explain your pain. That gut feeling was your nervous system sounding the alarm. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the mental tug-of-war between what you see and what you're told to believe. Narcissists are masters of creating this inner conflict. They tell you they love you, even as they ignore your suffering. They insist they care, even as they disappear when you need them most. And perhaps you even kept notes, writing things down because deep inside, you feared you were starting to lose your grip on reality. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often do this unconsciously, as a way of reclaiming the truth when gaslighting has eroded their trust in their own mind. Therapists who specialize in trauma recovery say this journaling instinct is actually a powerful survival mechanism, a breadcrumb trail back to reality. You didn't know what narcissism was back then. None of us do at first. We're taught that love requires patience, understanding, and forgiveness. But no one tells us what happens when those virtues are weaponized against us. You thought you were in a relationship built on reciprocity. You gave love, empathy, time, money, sometimes even your health. But the more you gave, the more they demanded. As Dr. Eleanor Greenberg explains, narcissists see relationships as supply chains, not emotional bonds. When they vanish during your darkest hours, it's not forgetfulness. It's emotional abandonment disguised as indifference. And still, you made excuses. You told yourself they were just stressed. You minimized your pain because you'd been conditioned to believe that love means loyalty, even to those who harm you. Psychologists say this cycle of denial is deeply rooted in trauma bonding, the neurochemical addiction to chaos, created by alternating abuse and reward. That's why even when your mind says, "This is wrong," your heart whispers, "Maybe it'll get better." Eventually, though, the facade started to crack. The inconsistencies piled up, the half-truths, the deflections, the blame games. You began noticing patterns that no longer felt random. That moment, the awakening, is what trauma experts call cognitive awakening, when survivors start recognizing the patterns of manipulation for what they are, deliberate and cyclical. Gaslighting wasn't just confusion, it was control. Smear campaigns weren't misunderstandings, they were strategic attacks meant to isolate and discredit you. And suddenly, you began learning the language of survival, words like projection, mirroring, and object constancy. You realized that narcissists don't love in the way emotionally healthy people do. Their affection has an expiration date, their empathy has conditions, and their apologies are just tactical resets to keep the game going. It's devastating to realize that someone you once loved was using your empathy as a weapon, but it's also the beginning of freedom. Psychologists agree. Awareness is the first step in breaking free from the trauma bond. When you can finally see the narcissist for who they are, not who you wish they were, you reclaim your power. And in that moment, you're not just a survivor. You're awakening. You're reclaiming your identity piece by piece, word by word, breath by breath. Takes time. Healing from narcissistic abuse isn't linear. There will be days when you miss them, not because you want them back, but because your nervous system still craves the familiarity of the chaos it once survived. But as trauma therapists remind us, every time you choose silence over engagement, peace over chaos, truth over illusion, you're rewiring your brain towards self-worth. So if you're watching this and you're still struggling to understand why you need to stay away, remember this: narcissists don't just destroy relationships. They dismantle your sense of self. Staying away isn't cruelty. It's self-preservation. As Dr. Ramani says, you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. You've already survived the storm. Now, it's time to build something beautiful from what's left. Something that belongs only to you. You might pause right here and whisper, almost bitterly, "Lucky? How am I lucky?" You've just been discarded, or maybe you've just had the horrifying epiphany that someone you love, a parent, a sibling, a partner, is a narcissist. The pain is raw. Your world feels upside down. But psychologists would tell you, this very awareness is your liberation. Dr. Ramani Durvasula often calls it the gift of clarity. The moment you name the abuse, the illusion begins to crack. You've stopped dancing in their shadow, and you've started to see the pattern for what it is. That's why you're lucky, not because of what happened, but because you now hold the truth. If you're still entangled with them, the next step isn't impulsive escape, it's strategy. Therapists who specialize in narcissistic abuse recovery emphasize the importance of an exit plan, not just physical but emotional and financial. The narcissist thrives on unpredictability, chaos, and your dependence. So your plan must be quiet, methodical, and yours alone. You may not even yet understand terms like flying monkeys, the narcissist's enablers who carry their narratives and manipulate for them, but you will. Every minute you stay after recognizing toxicity chips away at your psychological resilience. Dr. Carol McBride describes this phase as the awakening within captivity, the period when victims begin to see the bars of their invisible prison. Awareness hurts, but it's the beginning of freedom. Psychologists have long agreed on one haunting truth: narcissists don't get better. There is no cure for their empathy deficit, no therapy that magically rewires the deep-rooted shame and entitlement that drive their behavior. Over time, untreated narcissism doesn't mellow, it mutates. They grow crueler, more manipulative, more desperate for control. They will withhold affection to assert dominance, twist narratives to appear as victims, and sometimes even isolate you from friends and family to ensure they remain your only emotional source. Dr. Eleanor Greenberg refers to this as the narcissistic deterioration cycle, the slow moral decay that happens as their mask slips and their inner emptiness consumes them. For the victim, this experience can feel like psychological erosion. You start losing pieces of yourself, your joy, your intuition, your voice. And yet, the moment you finally recognize the game, something inside you begins to heal. Survivors often describe this phase as a slow reclamation of identity. Journaling becomes more than writing. It becomes evidence, proof of your reality in a world that gaslights you. Meditation, therapy, and reflection help your nervous system stabilize after months or years of chronic emotional hypervigilance. Dr. Judith Herman, an expert in trauma recovery, calls this the restoration of the self. It's not immediate, but with every insight, you regain another fragment of your stolen piece. Let's not sugarcoat it. Narcissists are profoundly self-absorbed. They orbit around their own needs like planets circling a dead sun. They exploit affection, loyalty, and empathy, turning virtues into weapons. Family, children, love, even shared memories are just props in their endless performance. Psychologists explain this as narcissistic objectification. They see people not as individuals but as extensions of themselves. You were never truly seen by them, only used. Understanding this doesn't erase the pain, but it replaces confusion with clarity. And clarity is the seed of healing. Now, it's important to understand that narcissism exists on a spectrum. Not every narcissist is the same. Some are grandiose and flamboyant, others covert and victim-playing. But the damage they inflict shares the same psychological DNA: manipulation, control, and emotional erosion. If you're watching content like this, you've likely been touched by their influence, maybe once, maybe repeatedly. And awareness, as therapists emphasize, is both armor and antidote. The more you understand the pathology, the less you internalize the blame. Time becomes your greatest ally in recovery. As months pass, you begin to rebuild your finances, your friendships, your confidence. Maybe you fall in love again, this time with someone kind. Or maybe, more importantly, you fall in love with yourself. Psychologists often note that post-narcissistic recovery is a rebirth. You rediscover your hobbies, your laughter, your health. You stop walking on eggshells. Life doesn't just return, it blooms. And yet, this newfound peace tends to trigger something sinister in the narcissist. Fear of irrelevance. Because just when you found your footing, they often reappear. Therapists refer to this as hoovering. The narcissists attempt to suck you back into their emotional vacuum. They might send a text on your birthday, show up on a holiday, or ask mutual friends about you. Some even escalate to surveillance or stalking behaviors, using technology or intermediaries to maintain control. It's chilling but predictable. Narcissists can't stand the idea that you've moved on, that their power has expired. As Dr. Craig Malkin explains, when you stop feeding the narcissist's ego, they panic. They need validation the way others need oxygen. But this time, you're not the same person. You've done the work. You've faced the nights of crying, the sleepless overthinking, the therapy sessions where you finally said out loud what you'd been too afraid to admit. You've learned the language of boundaries, a dialect narcissists can't manipulate. You've reclaimed your energy and, most importantly, your focus on the present moment. That's what healing looks like. No longer reliving the past or rehearsing the future, but breathing fully and freely in the now. Still, when the narcissist resurfaces, it's not a test of your strength. It's a reflection of their weakness. They can sense that your energy has shifted, that you no longer orbit them. And so, like emotional predators, they return to feed. But as psychologists teach, the best defense is no engagement. Silence is not passive. It's power. Every time you refuse to respond, you starve the beast of attention. Every time you choose peace over drama, you're reinforcing the truth. You are no longer their supply. Remember this, narcissists feed on energy, any energy. Anger, fear, love, resentment. It's all nourishment to them. The ultimate act of freedom is indifference. As trauma therapist Dr. Leslie Vernick says, detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You are no longer the same wounded soul who once begged for understanding. You are the survivor who learned that peace is not something they can give you. It's something you reclaim piece by piece, once they're gone. Once upon a time, you truly believed you needed them. You clung to their words, their validation, their unpredictable affection. You mistook the anxiety in your chest for love. But that wasn't love. That was the trauma bond whispering lies into your heart. Psychologists describe this bond as an addictive emotional tether, forged through cycles of affection and abuse. Dr. Patrick Carnes, who first studied trauma bonding, explains that it's a biochemical trap. Your brain associates pain with connection, danger with intimacy. So you chase their approval like a drug, hoping for relief that never comes. But here's the truth, you never needed them. You only needed to feel safe, seen, and whole again. And that was something they could never give. Breaking free from that bond is one of the hardest psychological battles you'll ever fight. Survivors often describe it as emotional detox. Every cell in your body craving the person who hurt you. This is where self-compassion becomes your lifeline. Dr. Judith Herman, a pioneer in trauma recovery, teaches that healing begins when victims stop blaming themselves for the abuse they endured. You didn't fall because you were weak. You were led carefully, systematically, by someone who studied your vulnerabilities and used them to bind you. Now that you've awakened to their manipulation, your mission is clear. No contact. Block them. Block their allies. Cut the strings. Each click of the block button is not cruelty. It's self-preservation. Why avoid them completely? Because narcissists don't change. Ever. Their words of repentance, "I found God. I'm in therapy. I've changed," are not admissions of guilt, but instruments of control. Clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula calls this the recycling phase of abuse. when narcissists pretend to transform just long enough to lure you back into submission. It's an emotional hoax designed to reopen your wounds. The truth is, they already had their chance and they squandered it. Narcissists don't evolve through self-awareness. They mutate through self-justification. Every "I miss you" is really "I miss controlling you." Once you truly grasp the narcissistic cycle, idealization, devaluation, discard, and hoovering, you realize that the only escape is distance. That's why survivors often start over completely. When the dust settles, you find yourself standing among ruins. Finances in disarray, trust shattered, self-worth fractured. But this is where the rebirth begins. Psychologists describe this phase as post-traumatic growth, a transformation born not of comfort, but of survival. You begin to rebuild, brick by brick, your new foundation made of self-respect and truth. Meanwhile, the narcissist, they don't rebuild, they replace. They move on to their next source of validation, convinced they've found greener pastures. But psychologists point out an ironic truth. They always repeat the same story. Dr. Les Carter notes that narcissists are doomed to live in a self-made loop of dysfunction, cycling through partners, jobs, and friends, always the hero of their own delusion, never realizing that the common denominator in every disaster is them. The grass isn't greener on their side. It's scorched, salted, and barren, because nothing grows in the soil of deceit. So let's be clear, they lost. When they lost you, they lost their favorite mirror, the one that reflected back the illusion they wanted to believe. And you're transforming, healing, rising. Psychologists often describe this as narcissistic shock reversal, the moment when the victim reclaims power and the narcissist begins to crumble internally. You've become someone they can no longer control, and that realization gnaws at them. To you, they're no longer a threat, they're background noise, a buzzing mosquito in the distance, irrelevant and fading. Remember how they once tried to dim your light? They drained your finances, isolated you from friends, undermined your health, and poisoned your joy. They wanted to make you small, dependent, and afraid. But what they underestimated was your resilience, the quiet fire that no manipulation could extinguish. Psychologists call this psychological elasticity, the human capacity to rebound from emotional devastation. Every time they tore you down, you grew a little stronger in ways they could never see. And now, that strength is your armor. Narcissists never expect their victims to rise. They see people as disposable objects to use and discard. But you are their greatest lesson in loss. The moment you stop reacting, they lose access to the fuel that keeps their ego alive. Dr. Craig Malkin calls this emotional starvation therapy. Depriving the narcissist of the one thing they crave, your attention, your silence becomes the loudest message they'll ever hear. So what's the strategy moving forward? No contact, absolute, unapologetic, unwavering. No text, no peek at their profile, no late-night drive past their house. No just checking in. Every relapse reopens the wound. Psychologists emphasize that closure never comes from the narcissist. It comes from you deciding the story ends here. The less they know about your life, the safer you are. The less you know about theirs, the freer you become. When you were with them, you lived in constant apology. You were their emotional assistant, their damage control, their reflection. But now, you're stepping into autonomy, a place where peace is no longer negotiated. You've evolved from people-pleaser to truth-seeker, from caretaker to creator of your own destiny. That's the true metamorphosis of healing. As we close this chapter, take a deep breath and recognize how far you've come. You've walked through emotional fire and emerged illuminated. The narcissist once drained your spirit. Now, you shine brighter precisely because of what you've endured. Remember, as Dr. Ramani often says, surviving a narcissist isn't about revenge. It's about resurrection. You've risen. And that, right there, is what they never saw coming.